Hey gorgeous, welcome back to the makeup aisle. Today's video is going to be all about my favorite brushes. That includes face brushes and also eye brushes. I did one of these videos way back at the beginning when I first started my channel, which has been well over a year, and I think what happens is that as the time continues to go on, they get rid of like really early videos. So I could not find it when I was looking through kind of like my menu of videos that I had uploaded since I had first started. So I am going to do an updated video about my favorite brushes, but again, just know, like anything, like makeup, just because I love it or it works for me doesn't mean that you're gonna love it or that it's gonna work for you. So take this video with a grain of salt. You know, I'm gonna post everything down below, link everything just in case you are interested in trying some of these brushes. A lot of these brushes, in fact, most of them I have been using now for years, really have become staples in my brush collection, and these are just the brushes that I love on an everyday basis. So we're gonna go ahead and start with face brushes, and what I'm gonna do is I'm going to attempt to do it in the order that I would actually apply stuff to my face. So starting with foundation, I'm going to start with mineral powder because it's what I usually use on a daily basis. I rarely use cream or liquid foundations, probably 2 to 3 times a week, because if I use it 7 days a week, my face will absolutely have a meltdown. I'll start breaking out, I'll start getting some texture and things like that. So I try to keep the liquid foundation to a minimum. So the first brush that I want to share with you is the BH Cosmetics 116. This is the brush that I use for any of my mineral powder foundations. I love it because the top is flat and it holds its shape really well. Now this brush you can absolutely use with cream foundations. I just find that I like the way it works with the mineral powder foundation, love the way it buffs it, you know, the foundation into the skin. It's not streaky. It just really gets everything in there nicely and really blends it all out beautifully. The next 2 brushes I have are liquid foundation brushes. Although I think that you might be able to use these for mineral powder, I just have never tried it. The one that I have been using for the longest amount of time is this Tarte dual-ended brush, and this is what it looks like. I love this brush because first of all, it's got a flat surface, very densely packed, but still has a lot of give to it, so it's not necessarily so kind of tough that it feels uncomfortable on your face. Now on the other side, you have a smaller brush which is angled, so you can use this, let's say, for concealer under the eyes, or even with your liquid foundation to get into those really hard to reach places like around the nose, under the eye. You know, you want to get it as close to the lash line as possible. This side of this brush will definitely do the trick. The second liquid foundation brush I have is the Morphe M444, and this is what it looks like. It's very short, very chubby, very densely packed, which I love. And what I can compare it to is an Artiste brush. If you have or seen an Artiste brush or even the knockoffs, they're very densely packed so that basically you're not getting foundation into the brush. The foundation is going to sit on top of the brush, which means you're going to use less foundation. And that's what I have found with this brush. It's absolutely just wonderful. I love it that it's not too long. It's a little chubbier, so you have, you know, really good control with buffing any foundation into the skin. I also like that this does not make your foundation look streaky. Unfortunately, some brushes will make your foundation look streaky as you are applying them, but this brush is not one of those. The next 2 brushes I have are what I use to set my concealer with banana powder. The first one that I use is the MAC 133, and I want to say it's 133. The number has been rubbed off because I've used this so many times and I've washed it so many times, but I will definitely confirm it for you and link it for you below. So this is what the brush looks like, and what I used to use it for when I first got it, I started using it for blush, which I love it because it's tapered, so with the angle you can fit it really nicely into or onto the cheeks, the apples of the cheeks, and kind of just sculpt out. But then after a while I realized that it was a really nice fit under my eyes, so I started to use it to set my concealer, and I absolutely adore this brush. It basically wears very well. When you wash it, you're not getting anything shedding or anything like that, but I just absolutely love this brush. A brush that I have recently kind of discovered is the Juvia's Place Tapered Blush, which is the J123. Now, although it does say that it's, you know, a brush for blush, I do not use it for that. For me, this shape is not something that interests me, I guess, in using it on my cheeks, but it fits perfectly underneath the eyes to set that concealer. It's just the way it's tapered up top is absolutely wonderful. This is so like perfectly made in shape that the bristles just, you see how they bounce back? They literally just kind of snap back into place. This is part of a 5 brush set that is almost always sold out. It had come back in stock, and so what I did was I ran to get it. I think it's sold out now, but these brushes are really good. These are quickly becoming some of my favorite brushes that I own. So the next 2 brushes I have, one is to set my foundation with powder and the other one is for bronzer. I put them together because they're pretty much the same shape. One is just a little fluffier than the other. So the first one I'm going to start with is the e.l.f. brush, and this is 101, which is a really, really fluffy brush, as you can see there. This is the one of the collection with the clear handles that almost look like acrylic. So as you can see, this is a very, very fluffy brush. Just comes out really nicely, and it's actually gotten fluffier as I have continued to use it and have continued to wash it. So I really do like that about this brush. And the reason why I love this brush to set my foundation with powder, whether it be pressed or loose, is the fact that it is so fluffy. So basically the powder for me is going to have a more diffused look. It's just going to be, I think, a little more even. This really works well with just buffing out the powder, getting it where I need it, but also really covering a larger surface area. So I just get that powder on my face quickly and I'm good to go. So the brush that I use for bronzer is another fluffy brush, and that's from BH Cosmetics. This is the V1 brush, which is from their vegan line. As you can see, it is fluffy, but a lot smaller than the e.l.f. brush. And the reason why I like this is because I do love bronzer. I rarely contour my face, but I do like to warm up the skin. I like the fact that this is fluffy, but still small enough, so I get it really in the areas that I want to, but still be able to just kind of give myself a sun-kissed glow. Because the smaller the brush, the more concentrated the color is going to be, whether it's on your cheeks or eyes. If the brush is small, you're going to have basically a concentrated like pop of color. So being that this is fluffy but still small enough, I love the way this disperses the bronzer on my face. Moving on to contour, I have 3 brushes here. I don't, like I said, always contour. When I do, that's fine, but it's not a daily occurrence for me. That includes my cheeks and my nose, although I did contour my nose just a bit today, but I just bronzed my face. So for contour, I have 2 brushes here. If you're looking to get a really nice kind of chiseled, sharp type of contour, I recommend this e.l.f. brush here. This is the way it looks. As you can see, it's a very specific shape. Just really, really nice. I think I paid $4, $3 or $4 for this brush. And I forget what YouTuber I had heard speaking about this. I mean, this was many years ago. I think I have like 2 or 3 of these. And so what I would do is I would chisel out the contour and then kind of buff it out. This is great because it's inexpensive, but it works really, really well. Like I said, it's got a really nice distinct shape. You've got a flat top here. The bristles are very soft and have a little give to them. So even though you're going to have a chiseled contour, it's not going to be so much so that it's just almost going to look like a streak. You can still buff it out a bit. Also too, if you'd like to bake, you can use this brush because it's, you know, got that flat side there, so you can just apply powder to your face. I've also seen people apply powder to the corner of their eyes, because that way if they are doing like a really smoky look or using eyeshadows that have a lot of fallout, the eyeshadow falls onto the powder and then after they're done, they just brush it away. So this brush really has a lot of things that it can be used for. And the brush that I tend to use for contour when I do contour is the Luxie 512 Small Contouring. And as you can see, it's basically a small, fluffy brush, but I love it because it is perfect to get into the hollows of my cheeks, and because I like a more kind of blown out contour, if you will, not just like a streak of color. I love using this brush because when I do contour, I can blend at the same time. And because of the way this brush is, even though it bounces back, it's still very fluffy and very soft. So I just love to use this in the hollows of my cheeks because I just feel like when I'm using it, it's blending out the contour at the same time. So I'm kind of killing two birds with one stone. For my nose, I actually use an eyeshadow brush that I kind of discovered by chance. This is a BH Cosmetics 119 brush, and I think this brush really, like I said, is an eyeshadow brush, but I love it because it's slanted here, and I just feel like it fits perfectly on the sides of my nose. So when I use this today to contour, I just get in there, put the contour on, and then I just kind of buff it out a bit with the same brush. And I do have to say, because I have a lot of BH Cosmetics brushes, this is not something that they're sponsoring. They didn't send me any of these brushes. I have purchased everything that you see in this video on my own. It's just that I really love BH Cosmetics brushes. I had ordered a set probably a little over a year ago, and it was on sale, I think maybe for $20, but the brushes, every single one is just phenomenal. So when people ask me, and you know, like for recommendations for brushes, I always tell them to start with BH Cosmetics. It is one of my favorite brush lines out there. And it's so inexpensive. That's what kills me. It's like you get these brush sets that are like 10, 12, 15 brushes, and you pay like $20 or $24, and they're always having sales. So if in your mind you're like, okay, I need good brushes, but I don't want to spend $78, you know, for one brush, definitely try BH Cosmetics brushes. I definitely think you won't be disappointed. The next brush I have is also a BH Cosmetics brush. This is a V3, which is also from their vegan line. This is what I use for my blush. I love it because it's slanted, so it fits perfectly when I want to kind of sculpt out my cheeks on my on the apples of my cheeks. I love this brush. I have 3 of these brushes because they aren't that good. I just love the way it sits on the cheeks. It's like the way it follows the positioning of your cheeks and just kind of like the contours of your face. I absolutely love this brush. The last 2 face brushes that I have here are brushes that I use to highlight with. The first brush I have is a fan brush, and this is from Smashbox. I got this a few years ago with one of their Halo blushes. So you could always use a fan brush for blush if you just want like just a small smattering of color on the cheeks. This is perfect because the fan brush is so light. So it's not like a heavier brush like I just showed you. It'll just kind of get a little dusting of color on the face, which is so beautiful. But I tend to use this for highlight. And even though, you know, because the fan brush is flat, you know, if you hold it that way and you put the highlight on, yeah, you're kind of gonna get a line of highlight. But then what I do is I just tend to kind of diffuse it both on top and on the bottom with the fan brush, so I blend that in. Some people love it, some people don't like the fan brush, but I do like it for highlighting, so I do use it sometimes for that. And the last brush I have for highlighting is the Morphe M501. This is such a great brush. It is basically like a small tapered fluffy brush, and when you first get it, let me see if I can show you. So this is a brand new one, because I do have actually 2 backups. So this is what a new one looks like. As you wash them and as you use them, they fluff out to that. So I love it because, again, if you don't want just a straight line of highlight, you use this brush, and while you're applying it where you want, because it's still small enough, you can do that, be very targeted, but you can also blend out while you're going. So this brush for me, like, it's really taken the place of the fan brush because I was using that so much, but I really do like this Morphe brush for highlighting. That does it for the face brushes, and we're going to go ahead and move on to eye brushes. So I'm going to, again, try to go in the order that I would do my eyes from the beginning. So to start with, I'm going to show you the brush that I use with my primer. I usually use my MAC paint pot, and if you've watched any of my videos, any of my tutorials, I pretty much always start out my looks with that. I love the MAC paint pot because it basically acts like a concealer for your eyes. So if you have veining, if you have any discoloration, it goes on the eyelid, makes the eyelid one shade, so that when you're putting on shadows, the shadows stay true to the color that they are. You don't have to worry about any veining showing through or anything like that. The brush I use to apply that primer is the BH Cosmetics 121. So it's kind of a flat brush, but it is tapered, so it's slanted a bit. And I love it because it just gets all over the eye beautifully. It covers a nice surface area. And again, with using the paint pot, I don't like to stick my fingers in there, so I go ahead and use this. And even when I use my other primers, like I have the Smashbox primer, I have the Milani primer, and those are in kind of like squeezy tubes, I'll just squeeze a bit on the top of this brush and start applying it all over the eyelid. Doesn't leave it streaky and just spreads everything out really nicely. Once I am done applying my primer, the primer to my eyes, I always set my primer with a shadow that's close to my skin tone. And the brush that I use for that, and actually I use two brushes. The first one I use is my Sigma Tapered Blending, which is the E40. So that's what it looks like. So basically it's a fluffy brush, kind of long and tapered just a bit. On the bottom here, so it kind of comes out on each side. But I love it because it's fluffy, and once I start setting that primer, I just want a nice surface area covered. So I just press the color onto the lid and move it around a little bit and just make sure that everything's covered. The brush just works really, really well for me, so that's what I use it for. And then the next brush that I use to do the same thing is the Juvia's Place Blender, which is the J125. So basically these are both almost the same. I think the Sigma one is just a little higher than the Juvia's Place, but they're very, very similar. Again, I just like the way that they get color onto the lid, and have just been really working well for me. Once I am done setting the primer, I actually will stick to this brush, and what I do, if you've watched any of my tutorials, because I have hooded eyes, when I open my eyes, the color tends to just disappear. So what I do is I always carve out a crease above my natural crease. And this is the brush that I use to do that. I love it because even though I can target that area right above my natural crease, I can still cover more than just if this was, let's say, a pencil brush. So once I'm going back and forth in windshield wiper motion, it's just covering and covering and almost blending it out as well. So these brushes I just love. Literally, I always pick these brushes up to set the primer and then carve out the crease. It never fails. It's going to be one of these two brushes. The next brush I have is a brush if I were going to put color into the crease. I want a smaller brush, but still kind of the same shape of what I just showed you. So those two I have actually are another Sigma and another Juvia's Place brush. So the Sigma is the diffused crease, which is the E38. And just to show you the comparison with the E38, this is the E40 that I just recently showed you. And so you see it's a little fluffier and a little bigger, a little taller than the diffused crease, again, which is the E38. So I love that because when I go to, when I want to apply color to the crease, that I definitely want to be right where I want it. So I'm not going to pick a brush that's super fluffy because it's going to be all over above the crease and under the crease. So this I love because I just get right in there, I kind of press in a bit, and then just go back and forth in the crease until the color gets to where I want it. The other crease brush that I use is the Precision brush from Juvia's Place, and that is J127, and that's what that looks like. So just for comparison with the first one I showed you, basically almost kind of the same thing. This one is a little fluffier, a little higher, taller, if you will, and then the Precision is a little more kind of tapered and a little shorter. So again, I can get the color on the crease where I want it, and if I want to spread it out, I can do that. But if I don't want to do that, this brush helps to keep the color right where I want it. The brush that I use to blend out colors as I am continuing on with my eye looks is a Sedona Lace EB13. I received this brush, I want to say in a BoxyCharm, and I just started using it to blend out the colors and to kind of, you know, blow out smoky eyes, make sure everything's blended, and I just loved it. It's just fluffy and really nice and just a full brush that will get everything nicely blended. For the most part, I don't put any color on this. I just go in as I'm, you know, doing my look, and I'll blend out the colors, make sure everything kind of, because you don't want any harsh lines. So I just make sure everything's really nice where the colors blend into each other. And if I'm going to do at the very top, sometimes I will add a small amount of a transition color to this brush to help blend out the top of the eye look. But again, I mean, it doesn't have to be a Sedona Lace brush, but I like this, you know, I guess this configuration of the brush. It's fluffy, it's small, but not too small. It really just kind of came out that this is what it was going to be used for, and that's what I've been using it for. The brushes that I use to apply color to the corner of my eyes, like the outer V, and also up into the crease, like halfway when I want to smoke something out, are brushes that I love so much. So I have a few here. So those two brushes are the Real Techniques, let's see, it's this 201 brush. This is from their Metals collection. This brush, I don't know if you could really see it from there, this brush is perfection, especially if you want to get color in the outer V and not really get it anywhere else. You could probably see it on my skin better, so I'm going to hold it there for just a second. But you see the way that shape is? It doesn't budge. Literally, it doesn't budge. It's soft, but it snaps right back into place the way you take it out of the package. It doesn't budge. I've washed this brush countless number of times. It doesn't shed, it doesn't spread out, it maintains that shape. So it's perfect if you want to do the outer V, because if you just want to do the outer V, your product is going to stay there. Let's put it that way. This brush is perfect with keeping product where you want it to be. And then the second brush that I use to apply color to my outer V and also up top above the crease is the Sigma Blending E25. I've used this already, as you can see there's color on it, but I love this because it's kind of tapered and on the sides there, but you can still see a little kind of fluffiness to it. So what I like about this brush is that I tend to use this if I want to do color on the corner, but I also want to bring it up onto the lid a little bit. And what I do is I pack on the color with the same brush, and then while I'm going back and forth, it's also blending it out, because the Real Techniques brush that I just showed you is going to put color in a concentrated area, but you're definitely going to have to blend that out. This is not the brush for that, just because it's not stiff as in like crunchy or crusty. It's just stiff that it's that shape, and it's not really going to budge from that. But the E25 here is one of my favorite brushes. I have several of these just because they are so good. The brush that I always, and I mean always, every single time, go to when I am applying pigments or glitters or any eyeshadow that I'm going to use a Fix Plus with to kind of make it more metallic. So you have these almost like a pressed pigment type of thing. This is the MAC 242 brush, and that is what it looks like. It's very flat. Make sure you can see that. And I love it because it's just perfect to press in product on the eye. And so what I do is I will press that in, but I love it too because it's so structured that when I need to move that color around and just go to a certain point, like, you know, most of the time I don't go above the crease when I'm doing, you know, working with pigments or that sort of thing. Or even if it's just like in the middle over the eyeball for a little pop of glitter, this is the brush I reach for 10 out of 10 times. I have other brushes that look like this. I still go back to this one. It is just one of my favorite brushes, or my favorite brush, I should say, to apply any pigment to my eyes. It's just perfection across the board. So a couple of brushes that I use to finish off my eye look like on the bottom. We're going to start with the Sigma Flat Definer, which is the E15 brush. And this is what it looks like. As you can see there, basically what it is, a flat definer. I love this brush because It's very soft, but still holds its shape nicely and gets right where you need it because of that fact. So it's, you know, it's soft, but it's not going to be where when you're applying color, you're getting brush or in your eye or anything like that. Wherever you put this brush, it's where it's going to stay. And so again, I just love this brush. I have several backups of this because it's just perfection. After I use the flat definer brush to put color close to the lash line, I always come in with another shade, a complementary shade to whatever I just put on there. And then what I do is I'll smudge out the bottom or blow it out so it's very, very smoky. I just love the bottom lash line to be very smoky. And the brush that I use for that is the Morphe E36. And as you can see, it is like the teeniest, tiniest, fluffiest brush, and I use this all the time. So if you've seen any of my tutorials, you've seen this brush being used because it's just perfect. It fluffs out as you continue to use it and wash it, which I really love because it just gets a little puffier. But I love it because it's small enough to just get under there and you just give it a good swoosh back and forth, smokes out whatever color you put on there so beautifully. I love this brush because it just works so well for that area underneath, especially when you're trying to get nice and close to the lash line and not go too far down. This is nice because it's concentrated in one specific area. The brush that I use to highlight my brow bone is from Royal & Langnickel. I received this in a boxy charm, I believe, and this is their Revolution BX80, and this is what it looks like. Love this brush because it is tapered perfectly. And like at the beginning, I wouldn't use it, and then finally I got around to using it, and I love the way it just goes right under, or on the brow bone, right under the eyebrow, and I don't know, it just fits perfectly. So for me, it is the perfect brush for highlighting my brow bone. I have other brushes, but just love the way this sits flat on my skin and just kind of back and forth with it, and it works beautifully. To highlight the inner corner, the next brush that I have, or the brush that I use, actually like 9 out of 10 times, it's just so perfect, and I'm going to show you why. This is the Real Techniques smudge brush, and this is a really, really teeny tiny brush. As you can see, it's really, really short and really densely packed. I love this because it literally fits right into the crook of the eye there and the inner corner. So once I have color on this brush, I'm just popping it into the inner corner. And what I'll do is I'll just kind of press in and swish just a bit, but it just fits perfectly. Like I don't have to keep doing this or that. I just pop it in there and give it a little swirl, and that is it. And like I said, I have other brushes that I could use for the inner corner highlight, but this brush just hands down is like amazing because it just fits in there, gets the highlighter in there, and I love it because it's very, very symmetrical because the shape is just perfect to fit into the inner corner. I have 3 brushes that I use to apply gel eyeliner. The first brush, unfortunately, I don't know if they carry it anymore, but I did want to talk about it because I do use it, and I've used it in some of my tutorials. This is the ColourPop slanted brush, and that's what it looks like. It's a very thin, very tiny brush, which I love because if you want to kind of take your time with that gel liner and really be kind of specific and really deliberate about it, this is a great brush because it is so small. So you can get, you know, you can draw the line as thin as you want or as thick as you want by just moving your hand and the brush. But just, it snaps back into place beautifully. I've washed this, like I said, a lot of times, and I love that fact that it doesn't lose its shape. I went back to buy more brushes and I couldn't find them. So if you are a ColourPop fan and know that, you know, there's a certain tab that I should go to because they sell the brushes there, please let me know in the comments below because I need more of these brushes. The next brush I have is also from Juvia's Place. It is J129 and it is the angled brow brush. As you can see, that's a little bigger and a little thicker. I don't know if you could really see it from there. This I like if you want a quick eyeliner application. It doesn't have to be a wing, it doesn't have to be a cat eye, but if you just want it to be quick, this is kind of thick in a way that you just get it on there and I don't know, you're almost done because it covers a bigger surface area than the one I just showed you. So you don't have to be really like taking your time to say, well, I want to make this part thin or this part thick. This will still apply it thinly, but it's great because when you're ready to like thicken up the line, you just kind of hit it full force and it covers so much more on the eye than the brush I just showed you. And then the third brush that I have for gel eyeliner is the e.l.f. small angled brush. This is also extremely, extremely tiny, as you can see there. But again, this would be in the same kind of vein as the ColourPop brush if you want to be a little more deliberate with the application of your gel liner and don't want something too thick right off the bat, want to kind of really work at it. This is a really nice brush to try. Well, that does it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Like I said, I will link everything down below in case you're interested in any of the brushes that I spoke about today. Please do not forget to subscribe to my channel. Also click that little bell so you can get alerted as to whenever I upload new content. Please give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!